Og han har jobbet nesten 30 år i firma, derav nesten 7 år som personlig assistent til Ingvar Kamprad, som gründeren til IKEA. Og som vi kan nevne Staffan glad i slanger. Og hver sommer går han på slangesafari i Sverige. Kanskje mer av en crazy fact enn fun fact. Men there you have it. Staffan vil fortelle oss noe om hvordan han implementerer mindfulness inn i lederprogrammet hos IKEA. Vel, vær så god.
I will do this in English. I know that most of you speak Scandinavian languages, but I have prepared myself in English. And now I understand that there are some people in here who don't speak Scandinavian language, so please accept my English. And thank you very much for this little introduction. I will continue. I will make a short introduction of myself. Aha, sorry. It is not turned on, you know. Hello? Okay. I will continue. I will make a little introduction of myself. But first I'd like to say that I know by experience that I look more serious than I am. I can smile. No? Okay. But before that little introduction, I will show you this picture. Something has happened right, BLE shouldn't be there, I don't know why. And I realized that this is not a very good picture. But it is a picture of a DC-3 in 1958. And in 1958, the first IKEA store was opened in Älmhult in South Sweden. Ingvar Kamprad, who was the founder of IKEA, I say was, because he passed away last year. He realized very early that the IKEA concept will most probably be a success. So after some months in Älmhult, he liked to share the benefit with the staff. So he rented a DC-3 and he gave half the staff in the store 1 week on Mallorca with pocket money. And after 1 week, the DC-3 came back and the other staff could go, so the store could be open all the time. This is in 1958. And I claim that Ingvar Kamprad, he realized very early that people who like what they do, they work better. Some people believe that IKEA is built on good furniture to low prices. I don't. I believe that IKEA is built on values and leadership, and value-based leadership. So, the big question is, why do people like what they do? Since they work better if they like what they do. And there I think that most of the answer is leadership. I think so. And if you don't know what IKEA means, it means Ingvar Kamprad Älmtaryd Agunnaryd. Älmtaryd, it is the farm in South Sweden. Ingvar Kamprad's grandparents, they bought that farm in the late 19th century. So Ingvar Kamprad, he grew up on Älmtaryd. And the little village close to Älmtaryd is Agunnaryd, so IKEA. I use this slide to explain my CV or my career. I have been busy in IKEA for 30 years. In Sweden, in Belgium, in Canada, in France, in Denmark, and then Belgium again, where I live now since 20 years. That's why I say that I'm a product of IKEA. I spent 6 years together with Ingvar Kamprad. Very exciting years, but also 24/7, all the time. And I have also been working with the frames around the IKEA concept, the franchise agreements and the manuals and the policies and all that. And I have been managing director for IKEA in Belgium for 8 years. Although I believe that IKEA is a human resource-friendly company where mistakes are okay. But I have experienced a lot of stress and press and heavy board meetings and demands to perform higher and higher, to run faster and faster for the bottom line. So I have experienced a lot of problems to sleep, for example, problems with my relationships. Also, I've used alcohol to calm down. I refuse to talk about burnout. I think it's a wrong word. A human person is never burned out. I talk about a mental slope downwards. And I was on such a slope when I left IKEA 6 years ago. It was a complicated divorce. I was curious to see if there is something else for me in life after 30 years in IKEA, and the divorce became more tricky than I thought. And also there, alcohol was a good thing to calm down. I don't know if you are familiar with the 4-room model. Are you? The 4-room model? No, you are not. I was going to say that if you were, I was in confusion. One of the room is confusion. And in confusion is also the turning point, where you can go back to renewal or inspiration. And in this period, I came in contact with Olaf Engström. He should be here today, but he had some problems with his back or so he couldn't come. I don't know if you have heard the name, Olaf Engström, but he is a mindfulness teacher in Sweden. I came in contact with him, and I set up my own company in Belgium. It's called Growing with Care Consulting. And in there, I design leadership programs and workshops and different presentations, all based on my years with Ingvar Kamprad and IKEA values. I come back to the values. And I became instructor in mindfulness. This is Olaf Engström, and this is Crete. He has a seminar every September in Crete, or on Crete maybe. And that is the book that got me hooked on mindfulness. I have to say also, and I regret it, that to me it seems like people who are busy with mindfulness, they have had their own problem. They have had a problem, and then they found out that mindfulness helped, and that is why they continue. It's kind of strange that you don't do it to be preventive. I mean, when I was in the military service, I understood that to go running or go to the gym is a good thing. Not because I had problems, but because I wanted to avoid problems. But it doesn't work. That thinking doesn't work for the head, unfortunately. So I regret that I didn't start 40 years ago. But it's never too late then. Today I am very grateful to Ola and also to myself that I explored what good mindfulness could do for me. And I believe that I have gained quite some insights which I would like to share with you thanks to mindfulness. One insight is that I am today much more attentive than I was before. attentive to things I used to consider as details. It could be a nice morning or a smile from her or a good cup of coffee or whatever, a phone call from my kids. I used to consider that as details, but today I don't. It's a new way of being attentive that makes my life more rich. I understand that. Maybe you think I exaggerate a little bit, but no, I don't think so. But I'm not trying to say that I didn't like my life as managing director in IKEA. No, I did like to be in the middle, to be manager for hundreds of other managers and 4,000 co-workers and 700 million euros or so. I did like that life. But it looks like I missed something in it. Things that I experience now, and I thought maybe that I did know them, but now I realize that I didn't. Like the smile. Small things maybe, or maybe not. I am also influenced by, one more thing. So when I have the opportunity to design leadership programs, I always include mindfulness, and it is always appreciated. This is a recent leadership program in IKEA Amman, Jordan. It's 19 Arab IKEA managers, and this is mindful walking in a hotel in Amman. It works all over. I'm also very influenced by Brené Brown. I suppose that at least some of you know who is Brené Brown. You do? I can see. Yeah. If you don't, find her on TED Talk. So her research is about vulnerability, shame, guilt, and empathy. And it took me quite a long time to understand what she means when she says that how the courage to be vulnerable transforms the way we live. It's not that easy to understand that the brave person is not trying to hide the vulnerability. That the vulnerability makes me strong, not weak. That the more I try to protect myself from being vulnerable by putting up shields of perfectionism, shields of artificial happiness, or why not alcohol, the more I get isolated and scared. Now, after these years, I really believe Brené Brown when she says that in vulnerability, courage and love are born. One more. In vulnerability, courage and love are born. Yeah, it takes time to understand it, but once I did understood it, I think that it makes very much sense. One of my favorite singers is Leonard Cohen. He sings in the anthem, "Ring the bell that still can ring. Forget your perfect offering. There is a crack in everything. That is where the light gets in." You heard that? Yeah. So I need to get up on the stage. I need to get into a new relationship. I need to face a painful meeting. I need to do it. And that is to be vulnerable. This is a typical insight I have achieved through Brené Brown and also mindfulness. So what I'm trying to say is that a more mindful existence opens doors to a deeper understanding of qualities I think I understood before. A little bit complicated, but now I will surprise you a little bit. I have operated my 2 eyes for cataract. Is it cataract in Norwegian? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Cataract. Nej, ja, grösta. And I claim that there are some similarities between this operation and the insights in mindfulness. I see the world more clear after. So I claim that conscious presence creates insights and understandings, and in my case, tools to communicate. So when the experienced leader has gone through more basic things like motivation and coaching in authenticity and feedback, he or she needs to dive into vulnerability, shame and guilt, and also empathy. And it takes time to realize and to understand it, but it is worth it, and it is important to do it. This is hard to understand and explain in Scandinavia, and where I live in Belgium and France, it is even more complicated, and in the Arab world it's almost impossible, but not impossible. By the way, I saw in a book which is called Top 5 Regrets of the Dying, people who are dying, that one of the things people regret the most is that they did not live their life according to their own dreams and wishes, but to how others expect them to live their life. Well, another insight I have got thanks to mindfulness and also to Brené Brown, it is how shame can paralyze and destroy. Shame. Guilt is so much easier. Guilt is something I did, and I feel guilt because I did something it was wrong. But shame, I am not good enough to participate in this group or whatever it is. Shame makes me all the time have a need to defend myself and try to be somebody I'm not. And it is painful not to deserve love nor participation. Also here, Brené Brown, she talks about shame. She says that either you understand how shame is managing your life or it will manage your life. And she also tries to answer the question, who supports shame? Some people support shame better than other people. And what unites people who are supporting shame good is that they realize that they are not perfect. They are vulnerable. And they care about gratefulness and happiness and let go in sufficiency. They care about compassion and let go control. No demands to be perfect, and in spite of that, I deserve love and participation. So what has all this to do with leadership or courageous leadership? Again, I claim that conscious presence creates knowledge and insights on a deeper level than what I had before. I try to practice sual. I guess you have heard about stop, observe, accept, and let go. Or maybe answer instead of let go. And I believe that in all kinds of situations, even if I know the answer, it is so much better to practice sual. The answer becomes better and more sustainable when that is practiced. A third insight I have got, thanks to mindfulness, is that when I get out of balance, normally it is because I worry. I can find hundreds of things to worry about. And most of them, they have not happened. And most of them will never happen. So the difference between me and the lions who are sleeping on the savannah is that they sleep until they hear an unexpected noise, then they react. But I don't, I worry before. Also anguish, angst, can hold me in a tight grip. And I guess that both worry and anguish are things I need to behave. But when it takes over, it becomes a mental catastrophe for me. I'm not saying that mindfulness has eliminated worry or anguish, but it has helped me to reduce it and to reflect on it in a new way, a more reflective, more conscious way. And by that, reducing worry and anguish. Makes sense? A fourth insight is that as a manager, I step on others' toes. Normally it is accidentally or by not reflecting, but I step on others' toes. And people step on my toes also. And I try to apologize. And if people who are stepping on my toes, if they don't apologize, I think they should, but if they don't, there is a risk that I will become bitter inside. It creates very, very bad feelings. And it is not worth it. So there I need to find some kind of reconciliation inside. Mindfulness helps. This is what I see when I open the paper in the morning. It is a lot of problems. It is a lot of things that can create pessimism. And I also see a lot of unhealthy behavior around me, also in IKEA. People try to run faster and faster, to do more and more, to be better and better. Especially now when Amazon and Alibaba, they are changing the retail world completely. They are invading the retail world. So it's a lot of change also for IKEA. And that creates mental problems or illness or so. One of the worst I see is FOMO, fear of missing out. I'm not good enough to belong to this group. And that creates really bad behavior also. Like, for example, to have the mobile phone on your bedside table when you sleep, so you're not missing a ping from Facebook. You see? Young people. This is a book I read recently, Cicilla Nutley, Distracted, the Brain, the Screen and the Powers Behind. And here she's talking about the working memory, that we can keep 5 or 6 issues in the working memory, not more. And this is where the mobile phone destroys the most, because a phone call will replace one of the 5 I'm working with, and it takes up to 30 minutes to get back to that concentration. And she's also discussing the connection between the word I never use, burnout, and the constant accessibility of mobile phones. I don't think all these stress-related problems are new, but I see them much more frequently today than 10 years ago. So it means that it is part of what a good manager or a good leader needs to know and manage. It is maybe new for him or for her, but he needs to know it. By the way, I don't think that good managerial qualities change over time. I think that what was good 20 years ago is good today and will be in 20 years. Not knowledge, but managerial qualities, like to be fair and friendly and honest and human and competent and demanding and a good example. That was appreciated, and it is today, and I'm sure it will be tomorrow. Mindfulness has helped me to see more clear the people around me, what they are and what they are not. And also how they perceive me, what I am and what I'm not. Being a manager in IKEA demands a lot of accessibility. Staffan, you have 5 minutes. Staffan, I need to talk to you today. Staffan, I have something important to say. And I was very well organized and structured, so this became a disaster for me. 5 minutes, next Tuesday, 2 o'clock. No, forget it. He has forgotten it long time before, so it is today or it's not. So in order to maintain good relation with the people, I realized that I could not say, no, I don't have 5 minutes. I couldn't. So for me, the solution was to plan half the day, not more. If I had 9 hours, 4.5 was planned, and the other 4.5 was accessibility. Yes, I have 5 minutes. Then came Outlook agenda. And that became a disaster for me, because other people could book in my agenda. I could see that you were free next Tuesday. But the solution was to book a lot of meetings, and I didn't have to say that I booked them with myself. IKEA values. Yeah, I said in the beginning that some people believe that IKEA is built on low-price furniture. I don't. It is built on values, leadership and values, value-based leadership. I will go through them. There are only 8. And this is Ingvar Kamprad. Yeah? The first one is about togetherness. It's not I, it is we. This is about respect for the many people in a unit, in a store or a warehouse or what it is. It is togetherness. To recognize that everybody is needed. Caring for people and the planet. You know, the IKEA vision, not business idea, but the vision, it is to create a better everyday life for the many people. And if you have that vision, everyday life, then there is a need to have a policy towards environment and also social behavior. And this is it. Then we have cost consciousness. And if you have read something about Ingvar Kamprad, you know that there are tons about stories about his cost consciousness. But you don't make the mistake to believe that he was greedy, snål, because he was not. He was a very generous man, but he did know the value of €1. He did know that. So the low price in IKEA, it is not negotiated, it is constructed. You see the difference? It is smart solutions. Then simplicity. Today IKEA is a huge bureaucratic company, but it was much more simple, and the value is still there. Ingvar Kamprad, he often said that to do something to 95% is good enough. The last 5%, they cost too much and it takes too much time. And if we need it, we do it later. So go ahead with the 95. Simplicity. Renew and improve. It is about to keep what is good and to do tomorrow what I do today, but a little bit better. Difference with the meaning. In IKEA, it is okay to try new ways. It is okay to make mistakes. Most successes are built on mistakes. So people should be encouraged, almost, to do mistakes. Not the same 5 times, but maybe 2 times, then something else. It is okay to make mistakes. Then the last one, first give and take responsibility. In IKEA, taking responsibility is considered to be a privilege. A privilege. This is about to believe in people and to promote not only on experience, but also on potential. To believe in people. And the last one is maybe the most important, lead by example. In all kinds of situations, lead by example. So these values together create the culture, the IKEA culture. The values create the culture creates the leadership, the well-being, the result in money and for the people. That is some kind of conclusion of the value of the values. It says in the headline to my presentation that IKEA values have picked up elements from the roots of mindfulness or something like that. Maybe. Both of them has to do with increased job satisfaction. So the values to the culture to a good atmosphere, and the atmosphere to better result. So I say that the mindful approach helps to translate the values into the everyday life. I mean, you don't have to be Einstein to understand that. I mean, it is obvious that people who like what they do, they work better, and then the results are better. So, mindfulness and also SWORD helps the manager to interpret the values into everyday leadership much better. And also to translate my own intuition, which I use, for example, for decision making, to practice SWORD. Some people say that being a manager in IKEA, you need to have a passion for home furnishing. I don't know. I think it's much more important to have a passion for the people you work with. I mean, you can learn how to sell a sofa or a kitchen, but to really develop a passion for the people you work with, to create motivation. Here, mindfulness has helped me. There is something called power of recognition. Simply connect and make a huge impact. That's also a new insight. It could be enough to say good morning when I run to my office. How are you today? You know, small things like that. I said in the beginning that there are things I used to consider as details, but now I understand that they are not, especially not for her, when I run before. So power of recognition. Then the values again. It is quite easy to understand the words in the values here, but really to understand how they together create the culture, and then how I translate the culture into my way of being a leader. I mean, the values, they should be present when I hire somebody. You can learn how to sell a lamp, but the values, at least part of them, they have to be there. Promotion, also on values. Fire somebody. It's never fun to fire somebody, but it can be done in a correct and okay way. The values, they should be present also there. The values, they should be in the walls, but they are not there for fun. They are there because they create a win-win situation, good for the employee and good for the company. So it's a win-win. It's an efficient thing to talk about values. Right to make mistakes. What does that mean? Only the one who is sleeping makes no mistakes. As a manager, I need to be prepared not to judge for the first impression. I need to practice SWORD. Okay, this went wrong, but she was in good faith, but it went completely wrong and it was very expensive. Nobody knows that better than her. So in other companies, maybe you are fired because of that. But in IKEA, you shouldn't. Shit happens. Learn from it and don't do it again. Sometimes I try to compare with a laptop. I have the values as the hard disk, the culture and the values. And then I have mindfulness as Windows 10, as an operational system. You see? So mindfulness helps me to navigate in the values, and also between other qualities I'm busy with, like coaching or feedback or what it is. When I look into the future, also there I see a lot of problems. It's very easy to be pessimistic about the future. And I do believe that we will see much higher unemployment in the West and in America than we do today. I do believe that what is happening now with robotization and artificial intelligence, and we live longer and more healthy, will create much bigger unemployment. And that will also create much more space and room for mindfulness. I do believe, but that's a personal thing, I do believe that before people realize that it is possible to live a full life without being employed, before people realize that, there will be a lot of problems in society. And some of them can be helped with mindfulness. But it is a personal thing. So I do believe that more and more companies, they will have to invest in mindfulness. And I also see modern, new companies like Google, for example. I also read about Norsk Hydro and Swedish IKEA, that they are investing heavily in the well-being of their staff. In Google, for example, there is something called 20% Google. And that means that you can use 20% of your time for any project, as long as you believe that it will benefit Google, that it's you who decide. So that's one way of creating some kind of well-being. And I do believe that these companies, they have in common a price tag on the problem. For example, the word I never use, burnout. What is the price tag for a burnout? That person is away 6 months and we need to find a replacer, and the replacer has to be trained and it doesn't work and we have to read it. There is a price tag. And I suppose that the reason for investing like they do, it is that they know this price tag. It is a good investment. So the responsible leader realizes this, and maybe also pure mathematics, that is this cheaper to preventing burnouts than to handle them. Thank you. That was almost 45 minutes.
Tack ska du ha för ditt inlägg.
Tack.
Vi har litt tid. Er det noen som Mikael har svarer på spørsmål? Ja.
It was interesting. Thank you for a very interesting talk. And it was interesting to hear you say that your personal opinion is it is possible to have a good life without being employed. I would very much like to hear a bit more on your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I don't manage to explain the economy behind that, but I can imagine that 10 years from now that we have 25 or 30% unemployment in the Western countries. I mean, all the simple jobs, they are already exported to the East. And now artificial intelligence is eliminating not only simple jobs, also other jobs. And I understand that artificial intelligence and robotization will also create jobs. And the fact that people are getting older and older and richer and more healthy, that will also create jobs. But I don't think that would be enough. So I don't say 50%, but 20-25. And that is a very new phenomenon. And then exactly how the tax money will be enough for all these people, I don't know. But there are some, in Finland, for example, they have already tried with what is called helicopter money, you know. Now it didn't turn well out, but I suppose that the state will have to find some kind of solution because there will simply not be enough jobs. But you know, the economy behind, I cannot explain it.
I was more interested in how do you see a life as unemployed being meaningful? What will create meaning when there is no societal tasks that is necessary for you to do.
But there could be a lot of societal tasks without employment. You know, you could help out somewhere, help out with older people, help out with environmental issues or so, take care of yourself, your kids, things like that. But I realized that the change will be very big. Even more in Scandinavia, or at least in Sweden, I find that the job is part of the identity much more than in Belgium where I live, or in France, for example. You can almost present yourself, I'm Staffan, I'm a dentist. You know, that's impossible in France. I'm not interested in knowing if you're a dentist. Give me your name, and if I'm interested, I will ask.
Jeg har
And now, yeah.
to spørsmål til, ett her, og så Anders.
I also thank you for an interesting talk. And I wonder, IKEA, have they implemented mindfulness in the organization for the employees and the leaders? And you didn't talk much about that, and I'm very curious.
You know, in IKEA, very much it depends on the local manager. If the manager in Bergen is interested in mindfulness, she will implement that in her store. And if not, she will not. There is no corporate structure to do that. But in many places there are initiatives to do it, but there is no all-over thing, not at all. No, that's also why I had the IKEA logotype small when Google and Hydro was much bigger. Mm-hmm.
Yes, thank you for a very interesting and personal talk. So I was curious about the values, because we also try to have a value-driven process, and what we see is detouring from the values all the time. So it's about refocusing on the values. Do you have a methodology for that, or is that also up to, or how are their leaders educated to, because sometimes it could, for example, simplicity, we see complication happening all the time in the individuals, but also in organizations, like they want to control. Do you have some ideas or something?
Yeah, I think that the answer is a bit embarrassing, because in IKEA there is a training. It's called the IKEA way, but that is only for, you know, managers. Maybe it's 600 or 700 a year, and in IKEA there are 180,000 people employed. So even if it's a good initiative, it is very small. So the system counts on mouth to mouth. And it also counts on that if you are a big manager in IKEA, then you are interested in all this, and you take care of it in your organization. So I think IKEA is suffering very much today by not having a corporate structure, and some people on very high level who is only busy with this. One thing that has polluted the values, if I may say so, is that too many people have been recruited from the outside, from very intelligent and good people from banks and McKinsey and all kind of stuff, in on a high level. And they have very little clue about life in a warehouse, in a store, to get dirty on the hands. And that has destroyed the consciousness about the value of the values. But today, Ingvar Kamprad passed away last year, and he has 3 sons, and they are in the different boards, and they are very committed that this is not only the most valuable asset when I started 35 years ago, it's also today the most valuable asset IKEA has. So the ambition is to make this live. It's a long answer, but yeah.
Da sier vi hjertelig takk til Steffen.